A very good morning to all of you. I am starting from the portion of the text from where I left yesterday in my class related with Mother's Day. So dear students, hereby I am sharing the screen with all of you. Please make sure that you all can see it, and kindly confirm me also that the screen is visible to all of you. Okay, now
Yes, sir, it is.
it is visible. Okay,
Yes, sir, it is visible.
okay, fine. Now you can see the text, NCERT text. It is visible, this one, as I am scrolling a bit. I hope it is visible, right? Okay, so I will be dealing with page number 46. If you have the text by your side, kindly take it out. Now page number 45 I did yesterday. A short recapitulation related with the dialogue that we find at the end of page number 45. Now because the same continuation of the same dialogue we will find in page number 46, conversation between Cyril and Mrs. Pearson. So see, Cyril, he got disappointed because for him his father got disappointed because he told that yes, to his father that yes, in the club the people they make fun of him, as well as the bartenders they also make fun of him behind his back, and he is their laughing stock. Now George Pearson expected that at least Cyril would support him, but it turned out that Cyril had to say the truth because Cyril was pressurized a bit by Mrs. Pearson. Cyril was very upset after that, and not only Cyril was very upset, even George Pearson was also very upset. Now this dialogue, let me continue. See, Cyril is saying, now you shouldn't have told him that. Mother, that's not fair. You have hurt his feelings. Mine too. Okay, now Cyril is saying that you have forced me to tell the truth. You have disappointed him. You have hurt his feelings, as well as you have hurt my feelings also. That was what Cyril told Mrs. Pearson. I hope there is someone on the line. Just wait, let me allow. Okay, so let us move on. Mrs. Pearson, look, her dialogue is very meaningful. See what she is saying. Sometimes it does people good to have their feelings hurt. I hope there is someone again on the line. Let me allow. Yes. So let me move on. Sometimes it does people
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Welcome to the class. So I guess few students joined us right now. I welcome all to this live class session where I am dealing with the topic Mother's Day. Okay, now as I was talking about this particular dialogue, this dialogue is very important. See, it is written, sometimes it does people good to have their feelings hurt, because see, truth is bitter, but truth is something that we have to digest. Though it is something very bitter, but still it is truth that actually sets us free. So truth is something very important. See this, it is written. I hope there is someone again on the line. Just wait, let me allow. Okay, yes, so let us move on, and it's a request to everyone, please give your attendance in the Google Classroom. Okay, now sometimes it does people good to have their feelings hurt. The truth ought not to hurt anybody for long. Okay, now the important thing is that Mrs. Pearson is trying to say to Cyril, I can understand that it is something based on truth, and it is something very bitter, and truth is always very uncomfortable, but it should not hurt someone for long. If your father didn't go to the club so often, perhaps they would stop laughing at him. But your father is a regular visitor. Whether invited or not invited, he goes to the club every evening. He had made it one of his daily routine. Now, if your father stopped going to club each and every evening, then obviously this problem can be solved. Okay, now in reply to that, Cyril told, gloomily means in a very sad manner, he told, I doubt it. I don't think so. I doubt it. Now Mrs. Pearson will act in a bit angry manner and see what she is saying. Possibly you do. But what I doubt is whether your opinions worth having. Now Mrs. Pearson is saying that I doubt whether your opinion is something that I should take into consideration. I hope there is someone on the line. Let me allow. Yes. So what Mrs. Pearson is saying that I don't think your opinion can be taken into consideration. What do you know? Nothing. You know nothing. What you know about family, what you know about family values, you know nothing. You spend too much time and good money at greyhound races and eye shows. So this is the true nature, okay, of Cyril. Actually, Mrs. Pearson in reality knows about each and every member of her family, but she never had that courage. She never had that guts to say to them on their face. But Mrs. Fitzgerald, after she had performed the magic, now she is inside Mrs. Pearson. As you all know, personalities change bodies, and since we know that Mrs. Fitzgerald, she was totally different from her nature, from her character in comparison with Mrs. Pearson. So she, from the very beginning, we find her arrogant, we find her aggressive, we find her outspoken, and now she is not scared of anybody. She used to say, and here also she is saying, see this line, you spend too much time and good money at greyhound races and eye shows. Okay, now Cyril used to do nothing, just like Doris. She used to roam with her boyfriend, wearing new clothes and giving new makeups, nothing else. Okay, Cyril also is the same. He had a lot of money, of course not his but his father's, and he spent too much at gambling, drinking, party, then obviously getting involved in dog races and eye shows and all this. So ultimately Cyril is also good for nothing, we get to know. And that is the reason, dear students, that is the reason that Mrs. Pearson, just a minute, I guess someone is there on the line. I guess Orithro joined us right now. Good morning, welcome to the class. Okay,
Good morning, sir.
good morning. So that is the reason Mrs. Pearson, that is the reason Mrs. Pearson is not so much serious about listening to Cyril, because Cyril is ultimately worthless. That is what she is trying to
Dog
say.
races?
Yes? Any doubt?
Sir, what is dog races?
Dog races mean just like you have seen, no, that horse race. People bet. People do a bit of betting on horses. I guess in movies and in many serials you have seen, right? That horse races, people go on betting them, which horse will win. Okay, there is a number also. Okay, similarly here also dog races is also like that. All the dogs are in a line, and obviously the race starts. Just like horse races, dog races is also same. Greyhound races, it's like a form of betting. There in case of horse racing there is a bet, in case of dog races also there is a bet. Same thing, just replace horses by dogs, and the betting thing and everything is basically the same. So the point is that Mrs. Pearson in reality knows everything. But what I told that she never got the courage to say all these things to whom? To her family members. She told all these things to Mrs. Fitzgerald. And now since Mrs. Fitzgerald, she is counseling the family members of Mrs. Pearson in a very rough manner. Now she is uttering all these things. Okay, now she is saying all these things. And obviously Cyril is also disappointed because these things Cyril never expected his mother will say. But now Cyril, look how he is defending himself. Well, what if I do? I have got to enjoy myself somehow, haven't I? Okay, now Cyril told Mrs. Pearson, okay, fine. I spend money in gambling. I spend money at party, at dog races. Okay, I lead my life in a very extravagant manner. I admit. But you see, I have got to enjoy myself. If I don't enjoy myself right now, when will I enjoy myself? Okay, now see what Mrs. Pearson she is saying. I wouldn't mind so much if you were really enjoying yourself. But are you? Now Mrs. Pearson is saying that I wouldn't mind if you seriously would have enjoyed yourself, or but to be very honest, are you really enjoying yourself? And do you realize this sort of spending money lavishly, okay, reckless lifestyle, extravagant lifestyle, ultimately where it is getting you, where it is leading you? Now when this particular dialogue was being uttered by Mrs. Pearson, all of a sudden there was a knocking at the door. Can you anyone guess who came now at the door? Can any one of you guess who was?
Mrs. Fitzgerald.
Yes, Mrs. Fitzgerald, but actually it is Mrs. Pearson only. Yes, absolutely right. Because as you know, her love for her family was something unconditional. Okay, it was something that she never expected anything in return. And already Mrs. Fitzgerald inside Mrs. Pearson told her that you wait in my house, come after 1 hour to half an hour, half an hour to 1 hour later. By that time you will see the change. But she can't wait for so long. After some time later she came, okay, and she was knocking at the door. Now Cyril, as I already referred earlier, Doris and Cyril, they never received any sort of good moral values from their parents, neither from their father nor from their mother. Okay, they never received any good manners. They don't know how to talk with elders. And we find Doris also that she will behave in a very rough manner with obviously Mrs. Fitzgerald. And here Cyril also will call out Mrs. Fitzgerald in front of Mrs. Pearson as the old silly bag from next door. That means, just like Doris, Cyril was also, unsympathetic and very rough in their conversation when it comes to senior most people, or rather to say, when it comes to elders. Okay, see this line. Cyril, well, what if I do? I have got to enjoy myself somehow, haven't I? In reply to that, Mrs. Pearson told that, are you really enjoying yourself? Ask in your mind, are you really enjoying yourself? And have you realized where it is getting you? Now, of course, there was a knock on the door. Cyril hurries out left, and in a moment he re-enters, closing the door behind him. That means who came? Mrs. Fitzgerald came. See the dialogue of Cyril. I told no, he haven't received any good moral values. Okay, doesn't know how to speak related with old people, senior people. See how this dialogue shows that his mentality. See, it's that silly old bag from next door, Mrs. Fitzgerald. Yes, yes, please.
Sir, and also that closing of the door behind him, that one also no?
Yes, yes. He closed the door also. No, he let her in because he will find that Mrs. Fitzgerald, she was standing just near the doorway. Okay, totally bad manners. Haven't learned anything because Mrs. Pearson, as I told you, no failure as a mother also, excessively pampered. Okay, they don't know how to talk with elders. Okay, they don't know how to talk with senior most citizens, and that is the reason casually looking, closing the door behind. And you will find here Mrs. Fitzgerald. Of course we know it is Mrs. Pearson. She was standing near the doorway. Okay, yes, you are absolutely right. That means haven't told her, ma'am, or please get in. Okay, because she was like his mother's age only, but see, so casual. And look at the dialogue, that will show you that how cheap their mentality is. Both the brother and the sister's mentality, very very cheap. Okay, now see, it is written, it's that silly old bag from next door, Mrs. Fitzgerald. You don't want her here, do you? Now see, look how straightforward and how idiotic the statement is from Cyril, that silly old that particular lady is there, old lady is there. Do you want her? Shall I close the door once again on her face? Now Mrs. Pearson very sharply, certainly I do. Bring her in. I want to talk with her. Ask her in. Now remember, I told you all right. Now bring her in. Actually, bring her in means ask her in. Let her allow. Okay, inside the house. And don't call her a silly old bag either. She is a very nice woman with a lot more sense than you will ever have. Please underline it. She is a nice woman and a lot more sense than you will ever have. That means Mrs. Pearson, she scolded whom Cyril by saying that don't call her a silly old lady or a silly old bag. She is a very nice woman and obviously she had a lot of intelligence. Then you can't even think of it. Okay, now I am moving on to the next line. Dear students, any doubt up to this? Any sort of clarification needed? You can say
No,
to
sir.
me. Okay,
No, sir.
fine. Okay, so let us move on then. Now, as you know, when Cyril went again to bring Mrs. Fitzgerald, Mrs. Pearson, she was drinking. She finishes her stout. Cyril re-enters, and along with her who came Mrs. Fitzgerald. But dear students, we all know in reality it is Mrs. Fitzgerald from outside, but deep inside she had imbibed all the characteristic traits of whom? She had imbibed all the characteristic traits of Mrs. Pearson. Okay, and that was the reason she was hesitating, because she was feeling very uncomfortable, and that was the reason she was standing near the doorway. Now look at what Mrs. Pearson had to say. Come in, Mrs. Fitzgerald. Now Mrs. Fitzgerald moving to left center. These are the stage direction, as I told you, left, right, center, all this. And anxiously she asked the question, I just wondered if everything all right. Now obviously remember, at this time Cyril was also present. Cyril was also present when they were having conversation. Cyril was also present in the same living room. I hope there is someone. Let me allow. Okay, so let me move on now. See what is written. Once again I am saying that I just wondered if everything is all right. Cyril, before Mrs. Pearson could say anything, Cyril interrupted. And look what Cyril told. No, it isn't. No, everything is not all right. Mrs. Pearson very sharply. Of course it is. You be quiet. Definitely it is all right. It is perfectly all right. Cyril, you be quiet. Cyril, why should I be quiet? And this thing Cyril told very loudly. Okay, and in a very reckless manner, very loudly, Cyril told that, why should I be quiet? I have to say, why you are stopping me? Mrs. Pearson now shouting, because I tell you to, you silly spoilt young pecan. That means, you silly spoiled boy. I told you to be quiet. Please be quiet. Now Mrs. Fitzgerald, she went on protesting. Oh no, surely. Now in reply to that, look what Mrs. Pearson she is saying. Now Mrs. Fitzgerald, please underline. This is a very important one. Okay, very important line. Now Mrs. Fitzgerald, just let me manage my family in my own way. Okay, you don't have to give me any suggestion, Mrs. Fitzgerald. Let me manage my family in my own way. Now Mrs. Fitzgerald, yes, but Cyril, Mr. Cyril Pearson to you, please, Mrs. Fitzgerald. Okay. Now Mrs. Fitzgerald, moving to the settee or cushion. Oh dear, what's happening? Now you will find a conversation is going on between Mrs. Fitzgerald and Mrs. Pearson, but they are not the real Mrs. Fitzgerald and not the real Mrs. Pearson. They are, we can say they have imbibed the characteristic traits of the other character. As already been told, personalities exchange bodies. Okay, very, very important. Okay, personalities exchange bodies. Now, obviously, Mrs. Fitzgerald is Mrs. Pearson. She is saying, what is happening? What's happening means, what is happening? Mrs. Pearson very calmly. We don't find her getting agitated, but we find that in case of Cyril, she got agitated, and later when George Pearson re-enters again, then also she got agitated. Okay, apart from that, she dealt with the family members in a very cool and calm manner. Okay, see here it is written, nothing much, just putting them in their places, that's all, doing what you ought to have done long since. Now Mrs. Pearson told Mrs. Fitzgerald that nothing much, I was just putting them in the right places. They haven't experienced this sort of behavior previously. You would have done it earlier. If you would have done it earlier, it wouldn't required my help. But since you haven't done it earlier, I had no other option but to perform that magic so that I can change their mentality and their way of perception of looking at you. Okay, so let me move on. Mrs. Fitzgerald, is George home? Mrs. Pearson, yes, I have been telling him what they think of him at the club. Okay, so Mrs. Fitzgerald, we know it is Mrs. Pearson in actuality, in reality. So she asked, or rather to say she inquired, is my husband back home? In reply to that, Mrs. Pearson, who actually was Mrs. Fitzgerald, told her, yes, I have been telling him what they think of him at the club. Yes, your husband had returned. And to be very honest with you, I told him everything. What others think of him at the club, I told him everything. Now Mrs. Fitzgerald, well, they think a lot of him, don't they? Okay, now Mrs. Fitzgerald, we know it is Mrs. Pearson. Now they are having a conversation. She told in reply to that, yes, and don't you think they every time make fun of him? Okay, and see, well, they think a lot of him, don't they? And at the same time, Mrs. Fitzgerald also told Mrs. Pearson that I know they make fun of him, but they do have some feelings for him. They do think a lot about him. Now, in reply to that, Mrs. Fitzgerald, who was inside Mrs. Pearson's body, told her that no, they don't, and now he knows it. No, they don't care about him at all. And now I already had told him about it. Now he is more disappointed because now he knows it. Now see Mrs. Fitzgerald very nervously saying, oh dear, I wish you hadn't, Mrs. Fitzgerald. Mrs. Pearson, nonsense, doing them all a world of good, and they will be eating out of your hand soon. You will see. Very, very important line. What Mrs. Pearson is saying, that I am doing a great job. Actually, it is Mrs. Fitzgerald inside Mrs. Pearson, as you know. So what she is saying, that I am doing a great job, because a time will come after this rough counseling session that they will blindly become your follower. They will be eating out of your hand, means they will be becoming like your pets. They will be your followers, just like sparrows and pigeons. They sometimes eat out of our hand, isn't it? That means they will become friendly and loyal to you. Now Mrs. Fitzgerald, she is replying, and look at her dialogue. I don't think I want them eating out of my hand. Oh, no, please. Please, I don't want them to eat out of my hand. That may not look good. Okay, I don't want that sort of a treatment from their part. Only I need that they should care about me. Now Mrs. Pearson got very impatient after listening to this dialogue from Mrs. Fitzgerald. Look what she is saying. Whatever you want, they will be doing it. And all three of them, mark my words, Mrs. Pearson, yes, and believe me, just mark my words, they will be doing it. All three of them, they will be doing it, and they will be following you. Whatever you do, whatever you say, they will abide by that. They will follow it as rules and regulations. Now when this thing is going on, when they are having a conversation, we find that George Pearson, he enters, and he was looking very glum. Glumly, glumly lights his pipe. He was very upset and unpleasantly surprised when he sees the visitor, because George never expected anyone to come at this hour. Okay. Then he looks from Mrs. Pearson to Mrs. Fitzgerald, who is regarding him anxiously. Then what George Pearson did, he already lighted his pipe, and he went on looking from Mrs. Pearson to Mrs. Fitzgerald. And when he looked at Mrs. Fitzgerald, he found that Mrs. Fitzgerald was looking at him anxiously, as if she felt the problem or the shocking incident. She realized what George felt after that shocking incident that happened. Now you see what is written. Just looked in for a minute, I suppose. Mrs. Fitzgerald. Okay, Mrs. Fitzgerald, I hope you came for a short visit. Now Mrs. Fitzgerald, who does know what she is saying? Well, yes, I suppose so, George. Yes, I came for a short visit. Now see, when Mrs. Fitzgerald replied, she told George as George only, haven't referred to his title. Okay, and that is the reason George became furious. Aghast means livid with anger. Remember, boys, very important. The term aghast means living with anger. Okay, livid, Livid, livid with anger. Now see, George, you are calling me by my name. Mrs. Fitzgerald, oh, I am very sorry, I am really sorry. Now Mrs. Pearson impatiently, what does it matter? It doesn't matter anything. Your name George, isn't it? What do you think you are? Duke of Edinburgh. What is the wrong in that? Your name is George. So obviously, what do you think, that you are the Duke of Edinburgh, that whenever you will be entering your castle, everyone will be saluting and praising you? Do you think you are like them? Or like the royals or the royal Duke of Edinburgh? Do you think like that? Now George is now very much angry, and because it seems that Mrs. Pearson is actually Mrs. Fitzgerald, and she is saying all these things in front of our neighbor, that is Mrs. Fitzgerald. Now that is something very difficult for George to bear it. Okay, so George got very angry, and look what is happening. What's he got to do with it? Just tell me that. Or why you have compared me with Duke of Edinburgh? What Duke of Edinburgh is supposed to do? And isn't it bad enough without her calling me George? And really, why she called me George? Okay, don't you think it's bad enough? No tea, even I haven't received any tea, though I don't want it also. Pompey Pearson, because see, it's a summation of all the things that happened with him. So no tea. When he came, I hope you remembered, and obviously he was known as Pompey Pearson because of his bulky nature, because he was very slow moving, and because of his pompous attitude. And poor Doris has been crying her eyes out upstairs. Yes, crying her eyes out. And obviously George even told that, and poor Doris, she had been crying all along. And when she was crying very badly. Okay, as if that she was crying her eyes out. Okay, that was what George told. That means George more or less summed up everything from the point that he arrived inside the house. From that point till now, whatever had happened, George had actually stated it in a very proper and a clean and conscious manner to Mrs. Fitzgerald. Okay, George had summed up the entire thing, whatever happened till now. George had actually summed up the entire thing, whatever incidents he participated after he arrived. Okay, from that to till now, whatever happened, he went on stating it everything to Mrs. Fitzgerald, so that Mrs. Fitzgerald can get to know about it. Okay, so I discussed up to page number 47. Tomorrow I will be doing creative writing assignment with you all. Next week again I will be continuing from page number 48. Any doubt up to this? Any sort of confusion at the back of your mind, or is it okay up to how much I have done? Have you all understood up to this? Is there any doubt, dear students?
Yes, sir. Clear. No, sir.
Okay, it is clear. Okay, fine. So see you again tomorrow. Stay safe. Have a nice day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.